In Tillamook, and I don't know what to do. That's the thing about Jamie and the Dalles when she got hit. What do you do? Everybody blew me off. So this lady here with the police who've blown me off and gone out of their way not to actually investigate anything, it's real difficult for me, especially when they're expecting me to do their jobs and I don't have a place to sit down and do their jobs for them that is adequate or appropriate. I don't have assistance. I cannot financially take care of myself, let alone pay for all of this extra crap. Now, this woman who is missing from here in Tillamook, I gotta try to make a missing persons report about her. There's also David and Katie Saltzman, one of our mutual, well, a lady who is their friend is also trying to help find them, and she's going to help me to make a police report. And hopefully we can find David and Katie Saltzman. They're important and they're still missing. I have to go through my videos and try to find the name of the lady who's missing. I'm going to show you her car. The conversation with her, if there's any of you who remember a conversation with a lady over at McDonald's when I was in the parking lot over there, there's about 3 or 4 of them with her. She's definitely out there, I'll give her that. That doesn't mean that she's a bad person, and it doesn't mean that she is not worthier of our love and attention and affection. She's missing, and I can't remember her name, and it makes me feel terrible. There's a lot of people who got away with what they did because I couldn't remember their names because there was just too many fucking people involved. And then people get angry when I get it mixed up because there are too many people involved. I'm sorry I said the wrong Debbie. I'm sorry I said the wrong Mandy. I wasn't trying to lie about you. I was trying to explain the situation with another Mandy, but when you got 6 Mandys all messaging you, it's difficult. It's difficult when there was only 2 of them. Thank goodness there's a lot of other Mandys in my life that didn't bother. Like Mandy McMahon. Mandy McMahon, I went to school with her in Chapel, and she was always nice to me. She was never mean to me. She also didn't have nothing to do with any of this. This is the first time I brought up Mandy McMahon's name, and I'm not bringing it up to shame her. Mandy McMahon was always, 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 always nice to me. Most of the time she was nice enough to leave me alone. Kind of had a sixth sense about it, I guess. Some people, like Kim Jepsen, sometimes people need a fucking break. When I needed a break from Kim Jepsen, because, see, here's the thing. Kim Jepsen was probably the most important person to ever enter my life. This is the first friend that I ever had my entire life that I knew I was going to get to keep. When Michael McBee yanked her out of her fucking car by her hair, man, that fucked my head up. When she went back to him, oh my God, that fucked my head up even worse. But you know what? That was her decision to make. And unlike Mandy McMahon, when I really wanted to be left alone, that's the thing about Kim Jepsen. I wanted to be left alone. I hurt too much. I hurt too much at that point. I couldn't. That's why I started smoking cigarettes, by the way. Kim Jepson kept wanting to come talk to me after I got into a fight with Zach Metcalf after the Veterans Day Assembly in Chapel, Nebraska. I got kicked out of school. He didn't. He got to join the Marine Corps. And I'm glad that he did. He was gonna not get to go to the Marine Corps. The sheriff at the time, real crooked feller by the name of Jim Hayes, he actually stopped me right after I got kicked out of school after the fight. He came and shook my hand. He said, "Man, it's about time somebody knocked Zach on his ass." I felt so bad for Zach. He was twice my size. He stood about as much chance as a fart in a windsock of getting out of that one. Holy shit. Like, I never felt so bad for somebody I only punched once. But I told him, dude, keep your nasty cockbeaters off of me. He didn't get it. He had this big old crush on Kimberly Jepson, and he had this plan that he was going out with a girl named Allison Fornander. And he decided that he was going to break up with Allison Fornander, declare his undying love for Kimberly Jo Jepson of Chapel, Nebraska, and everything was going to be fine after that. I mean, he had such a big crush on Kimberly Jo Jepson that he hit the weights. He wanted to be big and strong. He wanted to be impressive. And, well, he didn't end up being that impressive. Even being twice my size, he didn't know what he was doing. I didn't find out until later that was the first fight he'd ever been in. Otherwise, I'd have been a little bit less pessimistic. See, the way that I had him held, I was afraid that if I let him slip, I was accidentally going to slip his neck out of place. I was afraid if I let him go, that he was going to take the opportunity, because he was in the top mount position. Those of you who don't know nothing about fighting, I'm sorry about this technical part. Those of you who know a bit about fighting, you know the top mount position is your supreme god position. It's nearly impossible to defend yourself from that if somebody on the top knows what the hell they're doing. Zach, if he'd ever been in a fight before, I guarantee you, even one fight where he actually put up a fight before he got into it with me, and he would have dominated that whole fucking thing. So what I was afraid of is that he was going to dominate me. He was in the right position to do it, and I've got enough experience getting my ass kicked that I knew it. Thank goodness he didn't. Life happens. I won, he lost. Kim Jepson she's probably the keynote speaker of any one person in my life who really, truly, and honestly made a difference. It was when I met Kim that I went from having this fantasy of living with the Lost Boys and Never Never Land, and it was just a fantasy. I knew it was just a fantasy. I'd always wanted to have a place where I was safe, a place where those like me would have a safe place. But after meeting Kim and realizing I was finally going to have a friend I could keep, I realized that my dream was a possibility. It didn't last long. It's still my dream. People like to interpret what I'm saying or reinterpret what I'm saying, especially if it's in typing. You can see that going all the way back. You can also see how Natalie Bollinger and I, and Alicia Bollinger and I, and Maddie Boa and I, And Joanna Taylor Smith and I, and many other people and I, have all had that conversation about how texting is ineffective, about how it doesn't have the vocal connotations, about how people take it wrong. And with each and every one of those people, we agreed that if that happened, that we would talk. Actually talk. Obviously, there's a communication issue. It's going to happen because it's in texting. It's in typing. And even more critical, it's when I'm in a critical failure moment. My failure in all of this was that I couldn't get anyone to hear me. No matter how nicely I asked, no matter how many resources I expended, no matter how much time I spent doing what they asked me to do, it was never good enough for them to stop and actually listen. They were too busy giving advice. Couldn't see the forest through all the trees. The forest has got to be in there somewhere on the other side of them trees, ain't it? It's obvious to anybody who takes a look that I went above and beyond when it came to trying to do the right thing, trying to get help, trying to let people know that I was being abused, going to the people that I'm supposed to go to. Whoa. Oh, there it goes. All right. Felt like my steering wheel was locked, but it wasn't. Oh, that's me being extra spectacular. Anyway, the lady who's missing, her car has been parked here. She hasn't been at her car in at least 4 or 5 days. I don't know if she's been arrested, abducted, or what. I know that even though Farnsworth is probably not some serial killer lopping people's heads off, the thing is that it's still a worry that I have. Also, this lady's vehicle is... Let me show you. No, don't. God damn it. No, no, no. Okay, good. Thought I locked myself out. This is her car. And when she was staying in it, the windows were fogged up because she was staying in it. Now they're fogged up from when she was staying in it, but she hasn't been here. She hasn't been here. Her vehicle's still here. It's been sitting here. She has not come back. So I gotta go through my videos and find out what her name is. And that's gonna take some time. If we don't look out for each other, who's gonna? Oh, fucking colder than a cast iron commode on the shady side of an iceberg, ain't it? Fuck. Oh, come on, turn off. Let's get us a fire started and try to... Come on. I got a yoga mat here, and I use it to cover up my passenger window at night. Because it helps to make a little bit of a barrier, since that's the window that got shot out. Oh, happy day, right? Yeah. Alright, I think that'll hold. I need something to stick through there, though. I'll show you what I'm doing. I am gonna stick something through here. I got this blue mat here, and I got the yoga mat, and I gotta stick something through here that'll pinch them in place. I think I have my lady speed stick here somewhere local, and that'll perform the function required if I can find it. Lady speed stick is the deodorant I prefer to use. I can use some of the Old Spices, but over half of them make me itch like a motherfucker. And so I gotta make sure that I pay attention to which one I'm getting. Screw it, I got some empty boxes here from those fuel tablets. That fucking makes my shoulder hurt. Nope, this'll work. It's a McDonald's lid from a McDonald's coffee. That'll definitely work. Alright. Leverage and fulcrums. Alright, I'm going to show you the field out there. We'll just turn on the light for a second. And just a dirty ass field. That's the direction we was looking this morning when I was showing you how foggy it was and trying to explain to you that there really are mountains on the other side of that fog. Alright, looks to me like my engine is having some issues. Means I left it running for too long. I want to state again that my failure here was in getting someone to listen. All of the illegal things that I did after Natalie was killed were out of necessity. Before Natalie was killed, I did everything that I could to not have to break the law. I did everything that I could to follow the laws, to follow the protocols, and to do what it is that we were all trained. Those of us who grew up in the system were all trained the same way. We were trained to know who the mandated reporters are, who we're supposed to tell, how we're supposed to deal with bullies, how we're supposed to defend ourselves. We also, in the system, get even more intensive training on sexual assault than you guys are going to hear in the average school, because there's lots of super ultra Christian type folks that don't want their kids knowing what a penis and a vagina do. But in the system, you're locked up with a bunch of kids that were raped and molested mostly by their parents. Since you're locked up with those kids, you need to know about it. You also need to know that 70% of sexual abusers were victims at one point. 70% of them. They repeated the behaviors that were done to them. Even knowing that it was wrong according to society, the fact is that they grew up with it, and to them it was a socially acceptable thing. It's kind of like a lot of people who grow up in drug families. They think that the government should stick their fucking nose out of it and just let them do their fucking drugs. Now, here in Oregon, we're having a little bit of backlash. Well, a lot of backlash. But that backlash isn't from the drug use. The backlash is from police doing the same thing they always do. Villainizing the victims. Villainizing the most victimized people in the whole fucking country. The women who are raped most often, it has nothing to do with color. It has to do with them being on the streets. In some parts of this country, a homeless woman is raped on average 5 times a month. A lot of the women out here on the streets are with men that they're not interested in, men who abuse them. The reason that they're with the men who abuse them is because that abuse is far less frequent when they're with someone. People think twice about raping you when there's a man there with you. The most likely people to be shot by the police are the homeless, bar none. There is nobody per capita more likely to be killed by a police officer than a homeless person. If homeless people in 2019 had the same population as black folks in 2019, over 99% of those killed by police officers in 2019 would have been homeless people. Luckily, homeless people only had, at the time, a population size 1/120th the size of the black population or disabled population. My chances of being killed by a police officer every year are astronomical. A black homeless person, a Hispanic homeless person, an immigrant homeless person, a male homeless person, a female homeless person. We're prone to abuse. You give it to us, and then you tell us we chose it. We wanted it, needed it, chose it, and deserve it. How could you think that way and think it's okay? How can you tell us homeless people that we need to go to the back of the bus like our skin color matters at that point? Like our gender matters at that point? At that point, all our gender really does is determine which type of abuse we're most likely to get. We've got LGBT people that are on my channel speaking about being raped. That includes people who were born male. Some of them were raped by men who claimed to be straight. Some of them were sexually assaulted by women when they were inebriated. There's a lot of men who I've shown on my channel, who have spoken on my channel about being abused. One guy was homeless in Hood River, and he was going to go home to his wife, who he hadn't seen in a long time. And he was explaining that he had left his wife because she wouldn't stop beating on him. He said, I figured I had to leave before she either kills me or I hit her back. That's tough. Anyway, I don't know if I'll be able to stay conscious long enough to be able to find this lady's name. I am not in a okay mental state right now. I don't mean as in I'm gonna go hurt anybody or hurt myself or anything like that. Just I'm not clear to drive for goddamn sure. I'm really not ever clear to drive. I should never, ever, ever, ever have to drive it. It has not been safe for me to drive since I left Virginia. When I drove from Virginia to Boulder, Colorado, I was not in a good mental state. I was not in a good physical state. And from having that high concentration of saline water put into me, because I was dehydrated, like my eyeballs just burned. They still just, the whole drive home, my eyeballs burnt. And notice I said home. Boulder was my home. Boulder is the only place that has ever been a home to me. I try to get people to look at the evidence. That's because most of us need a visual marker to retain any information. For some of us, just a little tidbit in our head is enough. Like me, I think in pictures. So does Claire. Now, I'd explained to you about Claire. Her and I are not friends anymore. She's got me blocked. And of course, I kind of expected that. You guys know me. I call people out on their Facebooks. I call them out on their YouTubes, and I make videos when they fuck me over. Whether they do it intentionally or not is arbitrary. When they know we've got an appointment, and they know that I've jumped through hoops to help them in exchange for help that they're going to help me with, and they don't keep their word, I'm going to speak up. When people pass me off and pass me off and pass me off and pass me off and just keep on blowing me off, and then finally they figure they'll pacify me by getting drunk and pretending like they're going to listen. Like, holy shit. If the only time that you're going to have to actually pay attention is when you're fucking drunk, you're not paying attention. Anyway, I gotta wait a few minutes before I can actually lay down and try to get some sleep. And happy Christmas Eve and all that. There's a guy here in town that I know. He offered me $1,000 for my car. If I really, really wanted to, I could try to sell it to him for just enough for a ticket and a few bucks once I get there. I could make it to McIntosh Dairy on Riverdale Road, just outside of Thornton, Colorado, where Natalie was shot in the head by Joseph Michael Lopez, who used Natalie Bollinger's boyfriend's 9mm Glock 19. That would be Joey Moreno. She had another boyfriend at the time, too. His name was Justin Ward. And then there was Tim Beeson. Her YouTube channel, the list called For Tim. If you notice, that's, well, the videos there that she posted up were posted up before she was 18. She was still a child when Tim Beeson first started fucking her. When she was leaving her boyfriend, the boyfriend that was talking about blowing his own head off, the boyfriend who bought her a dog when she left him. He bought her a dog to try to get her to come back. And then when she left him again, he wouldn't let her have her dog. He held her down and he screamed in her face and told her she could have her dog back when she took him back. I rescued Natalie, and Natalie rescued me. And we would have been wonderful friends for the rest of our life if it hadn't been for her predators, people with ulterior motives, people who wanted to assume the worst in me just because I am a homeless and disabled male. That I must be one of these monsters. You know what? Rose M. Kelly is not the person to ask. Look at her history of putting her daughters in harm's way. Look at her history of choosing horrible men. Men like Ted Bollinger. How did Ted Bollinger end up with the 3 wives that he did? They were homeless and addicted to drugs. And he had a family business that he could front them drugs out of in Boulder, Colorado. See, when I tell y'all that there's things that I know, it's because I know people. I knew that Ted Bollinger, well, not Ted, I knew that the people who owned the barber shop up there on the hill, I knew that that was who a lot of the people that I knew were getting their drugs from. Primarily the heroin and the methamphetamines. Those are the things that he dealt with, and he dealt in quantity. As far as a drug kingpin goes, no, he wasn't that. He's just a middleman. The drugs that Christine Buhit got, they came through that barber shop. Everybody knew it. Drugs that Alaska Donald McNeese was selling, those came from the barber shop. The drugs that Todd Ryan Case was selling came from the barber shop. I didn't realize that Todd Ryan Case was friends with Ted Bollinger until he told me. That would have been nice to know. He could have told me that at the beginning. He claimed that he tried talking to the family because he's related to the Kelly side. That would have been nice to know early on as well. But with as fucked up as he was on ketamine, and with him, well, he was doing to Chloe Pachovis what Tim Beeson had done to Natalie Bollinger. He held her down and screamed in her face. He kept on telling her to speak up, and then he'd scream at her to shut the fuck up. And he'd scream, and he'd scream, and he'd scream, and he'd scream. But then, when I'd make a video, he'd come in and tell me about how the walls were paper thin. Every morning he'd kick her out. He'd take away her keys and take away her phone and kick her out and lock the door. Come nighttime, he'd let her back in. And then he'd do the same thing the next day. In between, when Natalie disappeared and when I was assaulted by Officer Whale in Lolatai, I stayed there with Todd Ryan Case and Chloe Pachovis. And it was so abusive, I couldn't stay there. I had to leave. And the people who came and got me from that situation, David and Laura Nelson came down and got me. When I say that people did help me, they did try to help me. They did lots of things to help me. It's because they did. And the police outright fucking lied and claimed that I wasn't trying to get help. They claimed that nobody would help me. Probably because of the way that I act. No, there's lots of people who understood why I was acting the way I was acting. There's plenty of people who are trying to help. The police were doing everything that they could to look the other way, to deny me and them our rights as human beings, and to allow these predators to repeatedly threaten, harass, and intimidate us and our families. And yes, I saved the evidence of people telling me about their friends and families having their lives threatened. All I needed was one person who actually loved me, actually cared about me. If you look at the stuff with Natalie Bollinger and with Alicia Bollinger, with Joanna Taylor Smith, and with a lot of other people, you get to read in their own words, or even hear in their own voices, them telling me that they love me. Them telling me that they care. Them telling me that they wouldn't do the exact things that they did. Natalie Bollinger didn't want anybody to get hurt. She said that, but she also tried to paint me as the villain. She asked people not to go hurting each other. That's exactly what I was asking for. Me and Natalie loved each other different. And there is no way that you guys are capable of understanding that, obviously. This had nothing to do with anyone's vagina. The only one between me and Natalie who thought they were in love with anybody was Natalie. She thought she was in love with me. And you guys who want to just dismiss that, like, oh, why would she have any interest in you? Well, it's because, unlike those of you who are twice my size, I'm not a pussy. When fucked up shit happened, I spoke up immediately. I did something immediately. When I saw an unsafe situation, I took action. I didn't just talk about it. I didn't just tell people to let it go. You don't get to rape and murder my friends and have me say absolutely nothing. It's just not going to work. You don't get to threaten to kill my friends and family and have me say nothing. It's not going to work. Now, Tim Beeson, in his messages, he said that he didn't let Natalie know. If I'd have had the ability to take screenshots, I could have sent it to her and shown her that Tim Beeson had been harassing me and threatening me and accusing me of being on meth and accusing me of being a child molester and all sorts of other creepy shit. But instead, he led her on to believe that I only knew he existed because I was stalking her. Her predator, the guy who, when me and Natalie were going to have our conversation, that she wanted as much as I did, if not more at times. I mean, shit. She was willing to fucking kill herself. Or to at least make the attempt. If I wasn't going to go there and actually have that conversation with her. So I went. I did what they asked, and you killed me for it. And you killed her for it, too. I tell you how nasty it really is out here, and you guys pretend like it's a magical fucking rainbow with a goddamn leprechaun, 3 wishes, and a fucking pot of gold at the end. No, at the end of our story is cremation. At the end of our exhausting lives, we don't even get a footnote in your history. We don't matter. We are the voiceless. And I've been showing you why. I've been showing how we are treated and why. Why did these predators of Natalie's repeatedly have access to me? Why were they repeatedly allowed to threaten, harass, and intimidate me and threaten to kill my friends and family over and over and over again? Over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and no matter how much I show you, you won't look. There was only one person in Natalie's life, only one, who actually loved Natalie right, and that person was me. Trying to get help stopping abuse is not the same fucking thing as stalking. Doing as a friend asks because you don't want her to blow her fucking head off or wrap her vehicle around a telephone pole. That's not stalking either. Going to Virginia because you were instructed to do so, because you had planned the trip. You know what? Laura Nelson and David Nelson and Brenda Dickinson and Dennis Dickinson and Rory Jeffson and Cammie Jeffson, or Cammie Fred Amon Jeffson, I guess is her full name. She was involved in it too. Please make it stop. I can't take any more of the pain of the world without some love in return. You tell me to get a dog. I can't be that selfish. I'm homeless. If I get arrested on bogus charges, they'll kill my dog. How could you do that to another living creature? I'm having too much of a... I gotta try to calm down so I can find that lady's name. If you can't tell, I'm overwhelmed right now. And, if my heart would stop, it wouldn't hurt anymore. Natalie's friends and family didn't want her and me to be friends, so they made both of our lives hell.